question is, what is your primary irrigation method on your property? So looks like half and half, like half of the participants have drip irrigation at home, and the other half use manual watering, and a small portion of them use sprinkler system at home. Second question, what kind of landscape do you have at your property? So some of them have native plants, drought-tolerant landscape, which is good, saving water. Um, Garden, non-native, non-drought tolerant plants, and other. I wonder what the other is. If you want, you can share in the chat. Um, Number three, do you use any of the following efficient landscape irrigation tools or methods? Most of the people have inline drip irrigation at home, and two people have smart irrigation controllers. Number four. Okay, I'm gonna skip those two questions. It's just for our social media team for learning how can we improve our publicity. But yeah, that's it. I'm going to stop sharing the poll result and I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Claire from the city of Sunnyvale, and I'll be moderating tonight's webinar, along with our co-sponsor, Basca, and our instructor, Xiaoqi Tao. I want to welcome all of you to our class tonight. So before we begin the webinar, I'm going to provide some guidelines for successful participation in this webinar. First, all attendees are muted by default to reduce background noise to the presentation. For tonight's class, we ask that you save any questions that you might have for the end of the presentation. If you would like to ask a question, you can do so in two ways. The first option is to use the raise hand feature. I will then call upon you and unmute you to ask your question. Second option is to type your question in the Q&A. I will then read the questions to the instructor or respond directly in the chat. This illustration shows where you can find the raise hand and the Q&A button. I'd also like to note that this webinar is being recorded and will be made available on later in our follow-up email. Now that we have that out of the way, I would like to share a little background on Basca's landscape education program. Basca is a special district that represents the interests of 26 cities, water districts, and private water companies, all of which purchase wholesale water from the San Francisco Regional Water Supply. Basca member agencies collectively serve over 1.8 million residents and 40,000 businesses in San Mateo, Santa Clara, and Alameda counties. Basca's goal is to ensure a reliable supply of high-quality water at a fair price for our agencies and their customers. Consistent with that goal, Basca provides a regional water conservation program to support our agency in improving water use efficiency. The landscape education program is one element of that conservation program. While we have made significant strides in water use efficiency in the past decade, there is still more room for improvement. Outdoor water use represents the single largest untapped opportunity for water conservation in the Basca service area. Outdoor water use reduction through the use of water-efficient plants and innovative techniques can help conserve water and ensure that future water supply needs of our communities are met. A few highlights on additional conservation programs that may be of interest to you is that Valley Water has several ring barrel rebates option. You can get up to $35 for installing a ring barrel, 50 cents a gallon for installing a cistern, and $1 per square foot of a rain garden. Basca has a newly redesigned landscape rebate program which provides rebates to customers of participating water agencies for replacing water-intensive lawn space with water-efficient landscaping. Basca also has the I Heart Great Water program, which gives residents up to $200 in rebates for connecting a washing machine to a gray water irrigation system. Next, there's the Basca Lawn Begun rebate, which gives residents various rebates for transforming their lawns and making them more water efficient. Another program by Basca is the Smart Controller program, which provides instant rebates and heavily discounted pricing on purchase of the Retro 3 irrigation controller. This controller can be operated on your smartphone and normally retails for $280. Through this program, customers of participating water agencies can purchase a controller for $100 plus tax. For more information or to find out which of these programs are available in your area, visit bayareaconservation.org. Um, Additional ways to save water in Sunnyvale. The city of Sunnyvale encourages you to participate in rebates program offered by Valley Water. Valley Water offers $2 per square foot of rebates for replacing your lawns and plants that require a lot of water with drought-tolerant plants or permeable hardscape. We also offer up to $200 in rebates for properties that connect a closed washer to a gray water irrigation system. In order to qualify for these rebates, please make sure you apply first. A common mistake is that residents get excited about the rebates and start transforming their lawn before making sure they qualify. Also, are you looking for compost? Free compost and mulch are available for Sunnyvale residents at the Smart Station. Stop by Monday to Sunday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with your own shovel and container. Additional information on water-wise gardening can be found on southbaygreengardens.org, where they also have some landscape designs and templates as well. It's a great way to get some ideas before you go ahead and apply for those rebates. Here is a snapshot of the Water-Wise Gardening website. It provides resources to support residents in water-efficient landscape renovations and management. Resources include a gallery of gardens with plants identified, plant selection tool, and even a water scheduler, watering calculator. And if you enjoyed tonight's webinar, we invite you to check out our upcoming webinar classes. You can view the full schedule and register at bayareaconservation.org. If you're interested in staying up to date with City of Sunnyvale's Environmental Department, make sure to subscribe or follow us on social media. Feel free to scan the QR codes or search using the green text provided. We share tips and tricks for living sustainably in Sunnyvale, as well as rebate information and upcoming events. If you have any questions about the rebate programs, please contact Valley Water for more information. Now I have the pleasure of introducing our instructor, Xiaoqi Tao. Xiaoqi is a landscape designer and founder of water-efficient-gardens.com, an online landscape design business that excels in low water and native garden designs. She is a sustainability-driven landscape design pro committed to developing attractive, water-efficient, and ecosystem-friendly landscaping designs and solutions. Her work has been featured in the statewide Save Our Water campaign, Mercury News, and many local papers around the Bay Area. Prior to Water Efficient Gardens, Shelky worked over 10 years in the high-tech industry in Silicon Valley. She received her Certificate of Achievement in Environmental Horticulture and Design from Foothill College and MBA from the Anderson School at UCLA. Shelky, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm going to stop sharing and you can take it away.
Thank you, Claire. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Tonight we are going to talk about irrigation, a very important and interesting topic. Let me go ahead and share my PowerPoint. Okay, so tonight's topic is prepare to irrigate efficiently this summer. We are already officially in summer now, and it's summer. We all know it's a hot season. So irrigation in such a hot in the hot season, that's something that can be quite critical for water efficiency. So these are the topics we are going to look at tonight. Why the irrigation efficiency matters, and then how can we achieve better efficiency from understanding our landscape? How can we check and upgrade our irrigation system? And why should we convert from lawn to a native garden? So first, let's look at why irrigation efficiency matters. First and foremost, summer, it's dry and hot, especially here in California. So as you can see, this is the precipitation chart for Sunnyvale. So you can see that starting May, pretty much now, all the way to pretty much September, the whole summer, we don't receive any rainfall, like almost like zero. So it's it's a kind of like in the whole world, there are only 4% of places that has this kind of climate where the summer is totally dry and the rainfall comes in winter and spring. We call this Mediterranean climate. And again, we are really the minority here. Only 4% of the areas in the whole world has this kind of climate. So so for us, summer is not only hot, it's also dry. So that really makes the water efficiency really important. So this is our temperatures. In summer, it's like over 80s. But if you just look at that, you might be thinking, oh, not so bad. But actually, as we all know, especially in the last couple of years, we have been hit by quite a few heat waves. And the trend is really going up, is increasing. So in 2023, there have been just right here, Sunnyvale and the South Bay area, we were hit by 2 heat waves. And last year again, 2 as well. And last year, 3 cities, they have the highest temperatures ever recorded. So San Jose, just a little bit south to Sunnyvale, they reached 103 in October. So it's the summer is hot and it's becoming hotter and with more heat waves. So the scientists, they looked at the climate in the Bay Area. So we have already warmed by up to 3 degrees Fahrenheit since the 1990s. And the rate of warming has accelerated. So if you think we are hot already now, right? If you're just going even warmer down the road, in 2022 when we had the mega drought, that's how bad the whole area is. And to reverse this trend, the fossil fuel pollution must be cut in half within this decade. We are right at the midpoint of this decade. So from everything we can see now, this trend will just continue, and we can just expect even warmer climate down the road. Because of that, smart irrigation really is essential, not just for summer, but pretty much all year round. But because summer is so hot and dry here in California, that makes it even more important. Why it matters? Because we simply don't have that water, right? If you think about it, when it's so hot and dry, everyone from us human, right, to wildlife, to plants, to grasses, everyone wants more water. So if we just use so much water on outdoor landscaping, that means that we are overdrawing on the resource which we don't have. So especially right here, it's really critical that we do not overspend what's available to us. By making changes, uh, for example, change from a lawn to a garden, we can really cut water usage significantly. Here you can see that when when the homeowners converted this lawn to this garden, the water usage went down by about 56%. You can see here, it's the before and after. So it's the same August month, month of, oh, uh, that's October. So the same month, before and after, it's 125 gallon versus 349 gallons. So it shows that how much potential landscaping has in achieving water saving. So a little plug here on our website, you can, there's this calculator, you can plug in your information like the square footage of your lawn, the days of cycles in your last water bill. Usually it's about 58 or 59 days. And if you do the calculation and show you that if you change your lawn to a garden, how much water you can save. So from there, you can kind of like get some good information about like the water saving effects you can achieve at your own yard. Um, in those years, this year I think we got pretty much rain in the last over the last winter. So such regulation is no longer, we at least right now we don't see such regulation. But back in 2022, if you still remember, because the water situation was so dire, so Valley Water really implemented this 2-day only regulation where you can only water 2 days in a week. Some places even only allow 1 day a week. So it becomes that in those years, right, it's not just we better do it, it becomes we have to do it. So that's also another kind of like angle why irrigating efficiently is so important. The state, they also really want to make water saving the California way of life. So they passed this regulation 1572, AB 1572, that mandates that for institutional properties such as schools and churches, if the lawn is non-functional, meaning no kids are playing soccer on it, no one having picnic on it, then it cannot be watered anymore after actually 2028, January 1st. So if you are part of a church or part of a school that you see such a non-functional turf, then you might let the the whoever managed the property know that there's such a um, regulation. Also, for all the common areas in HOA, that deadline is January 1st, 2029. So that's it. It and it's just about 3 or 4 years away. When that day rolls around, the water must be cut off from that non-functional turf. The state did not outright say you must change to a garden, but the hint, right? The intent is very obvious. They would hope people would take this opportunity and just go ahead and convert the lawn or the non-functional turf to the low water gardens. Now, we just talk about why we should use water efficiently, why it is so important. Now, let's look at some like practical ways, right? Like from your own yard, how that can be achieved. So there are a lot of factors that affect water efficiency for landscaping. So let's go through them one by one. The first, very obviously, is sun exposure. Of when it's a spot is in full sun, right? Obviously, the plants there will need more water. So whether it's full sun or part sun, part shade, or full shade, that makes a huge difference. Um, you might ask what's defined as a full sun. Usually, it's defined as 6 hours of direct sunlight. So say that such a spot, if during one 24-hour day, right, during the duration of the day, if it receives at least 6 hours of direct sunlight, then it can be called as a full sun spot. On the other hand, if this area, for example, it only receives between 4 to 6 hours, then it's categorized as par sun and par shade. And if it's under 4 hours, maybe like here, then it might be categorized as full shade. Same here. So this spot here is full sun, and right here, likely it's full par sun and par shade. Okay, sun exposure, that definitely has a very big impact for the water needs for the plants. Another very big factor, actually almost the most important factor, are the plants themselves. As you can see from this chart, different plants, they just have different water needs. So this is the water use classification of landscape species. It's a standard defined by UC Davis. So they just looked at all types of plants and categorized them into these 4 categories: high water use, moderate, low, and very low. So you can see one example for each of these 4 categories. High water use, those are the turf or the lawn that we usually see. So you can understand why by just looking at this chart, why it's so thirsty, because essentially the grass, they are high water use plants. They just need that much water. Moderate are likely a lot of shrubs fall into this category. Maybe some kind of roses. Yeah, a lot of shrubs actually fall into this category. Low is like Jautaran plants and a lot of many California native plants. And then very low, like the California poppies, that's a very low water use plant. Just by looking at this chart, you can see that the grass uses some like between 3 to 6 times more water than a very low water use plant. And from here, you can understand why it's so important. If we want to save water, we should go with a native garden and use native plants and not the high water use grasses. Another concept is called a hydrozone. So it's actually a natural extension from the plant type. Because different plants, they have such different water needs. So, so in a garden, it just makes sense to group them together so that we give them exactly the water that they need, right? For high water use plants, then we water them more. But then for low water use plants, then we water them less. If you look at this garden here, the owner, we did a lawn conversion project, but he's decided to keep a piece of the lawn because for his pets. So this is a high water use. So it's a zone 1. When we configure the irrigation, then it has its dedicated valve and it's on its own schedule. For example, during the hot summer days, it will be watered once every day. But here, these are all California native plants and low water plants. Then they only need to be watered maybe once every 2 weeks or even less. So here it shows that it's important to group plants based on their water needs and then irrigate accordingly. It's not only to save water, but also for the healthy growth of the plants. If we do not give enough water to the grass, then they will die, right? But here, if we give the same as much water that we give to the grass to these low water plants, they will die too because they are not it's not in them to take that much water. Literally, if you overwater native plants, you can really kill them. So it's very important not just to save water, but also for the plants growth as well. The hydrozoning. That's another example. Here there's this vegetable bed, and then here is the low water garden. So the vegetables, obviously they need more water. So likely it's water once a day. But here, these other plants, they can be watered much less. So that's how you can program it on the controller. So for example, the zone 1 is the grass, the lawn we just looked at. Then it will be on its own schedule, like once a week. And then the others, the low water native plants, then it's on their own schedule of once every 2 weeks, for example. One thing I want to call out is that while we want to save water, we do need to take care of the trees. So when we convert the lawn to such garden, the trees that originally received the water from the lawn irrigation, that might go down as well because we changed the frequency, for example, from once every day or 2 days to once every 2 weeks. Now, to make sure the trees can receive enough water, we should also program it on its own station so that we can have a dedicated watering schedule just for the trees. They don't need to be watered once every day, but they do need to be watered, especially during hot summer time. So, for example, their schedule can be something like once every 2 months or even once every month if the temperature is very high. But then for such a big tree, then you just need to water it especially if it's on drip irrigation, you just need to water it for a long time. For example, an hour to make sure that it receives enough water. Okay, so we talked about sun exposure, we talked about plant types and hydro zones. Another huge factor is soil type. We know that there are three basic types of soil, sand, loam, and clay. And sandy loam and clay loam are just variants between these three. One way to find out what kind of soil you have at your yard is to take a small handful of soil and then add some water and then and then squeeze it into a ball. And then you just squeeze that ball and see how long you can make the ribbon. If the ribbon is like longer than your palm, for example, then likely it's a clay. But if we can hardly be made into any ribbon, then likely it's sand. Anything in between, it's loam. The soil type is important because it dictates what kind of storage limit the soil has. So as you can see here, different soil types have different upper storage limit, meaning how much water it can absorb. If it's over that limit, then it cannot absorb any more, and the water will just run off and becomes a waste. So it's important for us to understand where the storage limit is. We call it field capacity, and make sure that we do not overwater so that the water will run off. For example, if you look at this chart, right, let's just assume that at 30 minutes, it will reach the field capacity of this particular yard. If we keep watering after 30 minutes, then the water will run off and becomes a waste. So because of that, we have this concept called cycle and soak, meaning we do not water everything at one go. We can break it and make sure it stays under the field capacity so that water will not run off. For example, if we decide that the lawn or this grass needs 80 minutes watering, total watering time a week, and we will do watering twice a week. That means each watering will last 40 minutes. 40 minutes. But then that has a problem because it's longer than 30 minutes, and then the water will just run off. To avoid that, let's break that into 2 waterings. So each time it will only be 20 minutes. then it's under the 30 minutes threshold and there will be no runoff. To do that, we can like irrigate, right? And then stop, let it soak. And then after a little bit, start again. Say if we program it on the controller, we can program the first watering to be like, let's say 5 a.m. and then let it water for 20 minutes. So if you finish at 5:20, then we can let it wait a little bit and do the next watering at 6 a.m. So this way we do a 20 minutes watering. Then the grass gets enough water and there will be no runoff. So this is such a schedule you can see on the San Jose Water Company website. So that's exactly what it's about. So say in May, what they suggest is that you break the watering to 3 cycles per day. You do 2 days per week, and then do 3 cycles, and each cycle 29 minutes. Same thing for June and same thing for July. So if you want to follow this, one way you can do it is program it, for example, once at 4 a.m., once at 5 a.m., and once at 6 a.m. So that way, yeah, then the watering could be done efficiently. Another factor can also affect the field capacity is whether it is the landscape, whether it is on a slope. Obviously, if it's on a slope, then its field capacity will be reduced. So that's another factor. For example, if on the flat surface, if it's 29 minutes, and if it's a slope, then you might reduce it to something like 24 or 25 minutes to make sure that the water will not be over its field capacity. Okay, so we looked at the main factors that will impact the water efficiency. So let's look at how we can use those information to adjust the timing and frequency. The best time to irrigate is early morning, between 4 to 8 a.m. Another time also okay is after 5 p.m. But overall, early morning is still the best. After sunset or after 5 p.m., the because the temperatures will go down. So actually, if the soil remains wet, it will encourage the growth of bacteria, and it's not as healthy as morning watering, where right with the temperatures going up during the day, then it won't create such an environment. So 4 to 8 a.m. is the preferred time for watering. We don't the worst time is like a noon time or hot afternoon, like between 12 to 4 p.m. That's when the temperature is the highest and the evaporation will be the strongest. So by avoiding those times, then the water efficiency can be better preserved. Water deeply, that's another very important trick here. So it's important because if we just water shallowly, right? Every time we just do it like a couple minutes, and then the water only stay on the surface, then the roots will also only stay on the surface. That way, then you just need to keep watering them. And with that, the water usage can be high. Instead, if we just do deep watering, but infrequently, like once every month, for example, then the roots will be trained to go down deeply, which is what the native plants are anyways. So then we can just keep watering them on a much lower frequency, like once a month or even once every 2 months. Um, the deep watering is defined as something like all the way down to about 8 inches. So it's suggested that you get a water meter. I think you can get it for free from Valley Water. Then just when you are not sure, just plug it in and see how wet the soil is. Um, Plug it into about 4 inches. When it's dry, then that's the time to water. Um, and then after watering, also try to measure whether it's wet up to 8 inches. And if that is, then we can be sure that it's deep enough and it's good for the plants. Again, don't overwater, especially the plants are native plants. It can in California, they are adjusted to our climate, where summer they receive almost no water, so they are totally adjusted to such a cycle. So if you give it a lot of water during summer, they can be killed. So many native plants, the gardeners, the experienced people, if you go on the Going Native Garden tour and if you talk to them, one key thing they just keep emphasizing is that don't overwater. It's better underwater than overwater. I think maybe it's because when it's underwater, right, you can always just give it water. Hopefully, it's not too long after that point. But but when you overwater it, then you can't save it because you can't take the water out after that point. We can upgrade our irrigation system. And the good news is that a lot of products have rebates now. The first equipment, almost one of the most important equipment, is the controller. So irrigation controller is something that's called the brain of the irrigation system. It's connected to the valves, right? Every house, we have this water main that's from the city, and then it's connected to all these valves. And the controllers are connected to the valves, and from there we can control how often and how much water is applied to different areas. Um, there are two types of controllers, the standard or the old controllers, and then the smart ones. Um, the smart controller, they are connected to the local weather station. So they can use the local weather and many other factors to automatically adjust the watering volume. So, for example, after a rain, they will automatically shut down the watering. They can detect or notify such information from the local weather station. So they will say right after the rain, then if you already schedule something, it will cut it off and will not water it, will not water right after the rain. So smart controller, they can save water. That's one of the most important reasons. Um, we talked about this already. So based on different hydro zones, we can schedule different run times and different days. So program A and B and C that each correspond to one hydro zone. For example, A is for the long and B is for the low water garden. So you can just, same for the smart controller. You can just program the run times and frequency for each program or each zone. Smart controllers, they are fully rebated under, I think, up to $300. So here is the list of all the controllers that you can receive a rebate. I took it back. I think for 6 stations, up to $300, and then more than that, $600. Anyhow, check the Valley Water website. They have all the information. A nozzle is also you can also receive rebate. So it's something like this. You it's you can adjust it's how the degrees that the water goes out. For example, it has 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and 270 degrees, so that it can just apply the water precisely in that range. So these are all the brands that you can I think I mm. There's specific brands just for nozzles. Yeah, I think I just copied the wrong rotor one here. Rotors is another irrigation equipment that you can receive rebates. So here's the brands. Rotor means that it can turn, right? Instead of spray, which is a fixed position, the rotor will just turn around and water the whole area. In addition to upgrading the equipment, another very important thing to do is to inspect for leaks. The leaks can represent a big chunk of the water wasted. So highly important that we always check for any leaks that's there in our watering system. There is a flow sensor product called flow sensor that can help you detect leaks, and you can also receive rebates for flow sensor. It's something like this black dot thing here. It's connected to a controller, and then it can detect from the flow rate of the water. It can calculate how much water your yard is or your garden is using or lawn is using. And if you compare with historical data, if it detects kind of like sudden increase, then likely there's a leak happening and it can alert you to that. So it's a good way to detect leak. So here's the list of the flow sensors that you can buy and receive a rebate. We talk about all these methods that you can use water more efficiently for irrigation, but ultimately to convert a lawn to a native garden, that's how maximum water saving can be achieved. We talked about the one example already. The water before and after was saved by 56%. This is another garden where before and after the water saving is 50%. So it can be significant, such water saving. Um, the reason why such so much water can be saved, number one, the native garden or low water garden use native plants. As I just mentioned, right? If you just look at the number, the grass or turf use anywhere between 3 to 6 or even more times more than the native plants. Like these native plants, like the white sage, uh, this is the mint. I need to think a little bit about this one. If the leaf has a little bit of smell of the mint, I will come back and talk about this one. Escape from my mind. So these two are very low water use native plants. Drip, that's another huge factor. If you think about the spray, right, and the drip, the difference can be really huge. You have different kind of drip products. You have the emitter like this. You have a drip line where you can see the hose like every every foot or sometimes 18 inches apart. Then water will just come out from this hose when the watering is going on. Oh, I remember now. Coyote mint. That's the name of this plant. For trees, then we recommend this kind of like a ring like drip line, and we can have multiple rings all the way to its drip line, um, canopy line. Sorry, so that for example, if it's a huge tree, it can have like 4, 5, or 3, 4, 5, or even more rings, so that its whole root zone is fully covered. Um, on top of all these, we can a native garden. We also use mulch, so it can really effectively reduce the evaporation, so water can be kept in the soil. But also with that, the water need is also reduced. Other things we can do on top of all that is to capture and reuse rainwater. You can see here this downspout. The water is we connect that to this rain garden, so that when it rains, the rainwater will just flow into this rain garden here and water all these plants. And then these plants don't need to be watered for quite some time after the rain. So that's also another way to allow us to use water more efficiently. So yeah, these are the main topic, main points I want to go over with you today to talk about how we can use water irrigation more efficiently. We should understand the concept of cycle and soak. Cycle and soak. Do not let water run off. We should use native plants. Um, uh, Use drip irrigation. Use mulch. And if you live in a HOA, then pay attention to AB 1572 and make sure that your HOA will comply with it before the deadline 2029. Yeah, feel free to let me know if you have any questions. Happy to answer.
Thank you, Shalky. It's very informative, and we're prepared to irrigate efficiently this summer. Um, so if you have any question, please feel free to type it in the Q&A, or you can raise your hand and I can unmute you to ask your question. Mm, um, okay, let me see. There's a question asking if the recording will be shared with the attendees. Um, and the answer is yes, the recording will be emailed to registered participants, probably next week or the week after next week. I'll email it to all of you of the recording, as well as all the information um, that all the link that Shelky mentioned, and also Shelky's contact information. And if you have any further question, if you come up with any other further question, you can feel free to email her or call her with her number. Uh, mm, I have a question about the smart controller. I saw the picture you show. There's
Mm.
a after like under the zone, it like the tablet under the zone, it says soil moisture level. So I wonder if the smart controller will detect the soil, will automatically detect the soil moisture level too. I I personally don't have any like smart controller and drip irrigation at home, so I'm very new to this.
I don't think so. Yeah, no. Yeah, that's interesting. I did not notice this before. I wonder whether it's something like some people they might have some the moisture meter and somehow it's connected to the controller, and
I
that way it can detect. Yeah, that's the only way I can see how this can work. Otherwise, no. Yeah, controller cannot detect that.
Oh, I see. Wow, that would be very useful if the controller can detect soil moisture too.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't see any questions. If you have any question about your irrigation system, anything about irrigation or a native plant or your garden, like your native plant garden at home, feel free to ask Shelky when we have her. Shelky is an expert in landscape design and also in native plant, drought tolerant garden design too. So if you have any question about irrigation, native plants, drought tolerant plants, you it's your chance to ask your question now. What about for drip irrigation? Do you um does does drip irrigation have to like set a schedule too? Do you want to share more about drip irrigation?
Yes, definitely. Drip irrigation, it should, yes, it should be also programmed with the using the controller. It's the only difference is that, as mentioned, because most of the native plants they are low water plants, so the frequency can be much lower than you would program for a lawn, for example. Um, for established native plants, you might only need to water it once a month or even once every 2 months. When you first plant them, they do need to be watered every day for a couple of weeks. But once they are established, then you reduce that to once a week or once every 2 weeks. Um, One thing I want to call out too, good question, Claire, is that for drip irrigation, you can also overwater. Um, Even though it comes out slowly, right? But if you just keep doing it, say for 2 hours, then at some point, the fuel capacity can be reached, and if you have run off as well. So it's the same thing that we should pay attention to the watering time and make sure it's not over the where the fuel capacity is reached.
Thank you. So is it the same skid? Oh, sorry. I, Like
Um,
a difference between like using valve or drip irrigation, like the
the
scheduling.
so the only thing is that the time you reach the field capacity can be much longer, right?
Mm,
Um, but for a certain soil type, their field capacity is also set. So, for example, if with sprinkler, it will take 30 minutes to reach that capacity. For drip irrigation, let's say it might take, I don't know, 3 hours. But then it will still be reached. So the implication is that do not, even if it's a drip irrigation, do not water it over 3 hours or whatever the field capacity time is.
I see. Thank you. It's very useful information. Although I don't have drip irrigation or the um, sensor at home. Actually, I rent, so I don't know what watering method my landlord use.
Yeah, if it's a long watch, has a current irrigation is a sprinkler. Actually, the flow sensor can be quite useful because it can, as mentioned, right, it can detect how much water is being flown through the pipe. So if there's any sudden increase, then it can alert you and let you know there might be a leak. So for high water use lawns, then yeah, it can be quite useful.
Also, I've in a poll question, I see that two of our participants they they use manual watering, like either using hose or bucket watering. So is that the same rules to
Yeah,
those two?
same rules. Although because it's manual, then it's much easier to control, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the same spot you keep bring the bucket to water it for, I don't know, 20 times, and if you reach the fill capacity, it will run off too. Although I can don't most likely no one will do that for no
Yeah.
obvious reason. But again, the same concept applies. That yeah, no over water above this line.
Yeah. Thank you. Um, okay, I don't see any questions. Last call, if you have any question, feel free to raise up your hands or put in a Q&A. Otherwise, we can call it a day. We can enjoy the rest of our day. Xiaoqi, do you want to put your contact information out again in case anyone um, have in case anyone wants your information and ask question later? And I will also share this shell case information in the follow-up email. So if you have any question or anything you want to know more about, uh, feel free to email Shelky. And I think I think that's it. I don't see any questions. Thank you, Shelky, for the presentations. Very informative and a lot of methods to help saving water in summer. And also um, very impressive that how native plant can help save a lot of water than like lawn. So thank you so much. I'm going to end the webinar. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you, Shelky, for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.